Good afternoon. Zen Buddhism sometimes uses rather strong words. For example, the great doubt or the one great matter of birth and death. This is also a common Buddhist expression. And these expressions, these words, can sound perhaps strange or distant, maybe even scary and imposing and formidable, but they're not. It's not a matter of replacing one set of concepts, for example, a Christian or an atheist set of ideas with another set of ideas. Let's get rid of the Christian stuff and we'll pour in some Buddhist philosophy. It's studying Buddhism is valuable, but the point of practice is not to replace one set of values or ideas or thinking with another. It's something more basic than that, you might say. Also, in a way, simpler than that. The point is, these terms, the one great matter of life and death, the great doubt, they're not something far away at all. With our eye and our heart open, this one great matter, this one great doubt is always directly underfoot, under our feet, in the depths of our heart. We are always touching it. We are always touching this one great matter. Anyone who lives fully is touching the one great matter. Anyone who loves deeply is touching the one great matter. Anyone who has lost something precious, dear to them, is touching the one great matter. In an emergency, literally a life and death situation, well, it's staring you in the face. But again, it's always there, underfoot. The point is, the self wants to turn away from that, because it doesn't fully grasp it or understand it or see through it. So it seems formidable, difficult, distant perhaps. It's not. Again, this one great matter, this one great doubt, it's always underfoot, under our feet, if our heart is open and our eye is clear. If it doesn't seem that way, well, face it, you are keeping it at a distance. Thus it seems maybe aloof or something foreign or difficult. It's not. You are keeping it at a distance. You're trying to escape from what you cannot escape from. It's inescapable. And yet much of our lives are spent trying to escape this fact. That's what is boring. That's what is difficult. The Zazen, the Buddhist practice, is not difficult. Running away from it, that's difficult. That's what's tiring. Not the practice. The genuine practice, opening up to this fact, the one great matter, the great doubt. There's nothing more alive and vital than that. To open up, in Buddhist terms, to open up to the source of our suffering, our dukkha, the dis-ease, the first noble truth. To open up to the source of our suffering. Why? Because otherwise it's endless. It's endless. As Mark mentioned, on my cushion I solved all kinds of problems which had no effect when I went back to my daily life. It was useless. Yeah, it's around, you solve one problem, another problem, another problem. It's endless. It is, as Mark could show, it's a symptom of the dis-ease. You'll never get to the end of dis-ease that way. It's like having a cold and you increase the symptoms. You do things to make yourself cough more and feel even sicker. Well, that's probably not the best way to get better, is it? Again, we are constantly touching what I'm talking about, this one great matter, this great doubt. We're always touching it. But touching it is not enough. If we are going to really commit ourselves to serious Buddhist, Zen Buddhist practice, we naturally give all of ourselves to go all the way through, not just to touch it, to perhaps contemplate it, to perhaps understand it even. No, but to go all the way through the one great matter, this great doubt. Now we're talking about actual practice. There are about 3,500 examples I could give, but one will do. About 350, 400 years ago in the Ming Dynasty in China, actually what we call in Japanese a Soto Zen master, not a Rinzai Zen master, but it doesn't make any difference. His name was Boshan. He put it this way: once you break through this great doubt, you realize what a worthless notion life and death is. Ha! It's all right there. He's not talking about replacing one concept with another. He's talking about all concepts coming to their own end, then realizing what's been here from the first. Again, we are always touching this one great matter, this great doubt. But we also often are running away from it. There's the problem. You can't run away from it. It's like a cat trying to run away from its tail. Runs out of the door, runs into the woods. The tail's still following me. Yes, that's right. It's attached to your butt the whole time. So, this practice is simply a matter of opening up to this, how to say it, the genuine need to truly live, to fully live this life. to fully open up and awaken what is in the depths of your own heart, not something from a book or a sutra. When we get to this point, I have to ask, how can you not give all of yourself to this practice? How can you do anything else? We have several days now. It's a schedule on the wall if you need to know what to do next. Meals taken care of, bed, shower, the whole deal. Place to sit. Please don't waste this precious opportunity. Huh? One of the great benefits I had in working at Rinzai Zen University in Kyoto was I had an office. I had professors, some who were Zen masters, scholar monks and so on, down the hall. And over the years I was able to collect quite a nice library of books. The university gives you an annual couple of $1,000s at that time every year to buy books for your study, your research. So I had quite a good library. And I had some time when I wasn't teaching and practicing. And I would read not just Zen books, but books from other great religious traditions. And eventually it dawned on me. What I'm doing, this weird, crazy Zen practice that I have given my life to, it's not something weird at all. As with all of the great spiritual, religious traditions, they are more or less the font, the base of so much of human civilization. Great art, great poetry, great literature. So much of it comes from this religious impulse. Do you realize that? We're not nuts. We are a part of the great spiritual religious tradition that has been going on for thousands of years. And I don't just mean Buddhist either, And that has been the foundation of much of the great culture as well as spiritual traditions of our civilization. Just the other day, with Easter coming up, there was a concert I went to, and one of the singers was singing something from Hildegard de Bingen. Do you know Hildegard de Bingen? She was a great, for lack of a better word, a Christian mystic. She also developed different kinds of diets that you can go. I've been to her monastery, Bingen on the Rhine, near Mainz in Germany. That monastery is still there. And they still prepare, and you can eat at the restaurant there, some of the food that she, understanding herbs and things like that, developed. But she was also a mystic, and she wrote poetry and also songs. And one of the songs that was sung the other day was just one line. It's called the Hymn to the Holy Spirit. She's a Christian mystic. And she says, by you, the Holy Spirit, by you, the human mind is set ablaze, is set on fire, is burned up. It's a very common mystical notion, but there it is. It's all over the place. We are a part of the great spiritual and religious traditions that have gone back, most of them for thousands of years. And again, they have been a very important part of the culture, the civilization, the great art, poetry, literature throughout history. Take a look. That was one of the great virtues of being able to teach at this university. I got to read all this stuff and think, there it is again. Damn, Sufi mysticism. If you have the eye, they're saying the same thing. The Christian mystics, they're saying the same thing. It's not identical, it doesn't have to be. They have a different approach, that's fine. But to appreciate the tradition that we come out of, this is not pop Zen. This is not New Age nonsense. In Zen, especially Rinzai Zen, the koans are often used. You're all familiar, huh? With a koan. A koan. These koans can be extremely helpful in this situation when you're really opening up to this great doubt, to this one great matter. Huh? But the koans are not necessary. What's called a given koan or an assigned koan. A master will say, now you do the koan, the sound of the single hand, or Joshu's mu, does a dog have Buddha nature? Huh? A given koan can work. I've gone through a couple thousand of them. Yeah, they can work. If you cement yourself to it. You understand? To cement yourself? I don't think they use that expression in the Tang Dynasty, China. But cement, it's semi-liquid. But when it's formed and then it's used, it hardens. Huh? You can't pull yourself away from it. Huh? So I've never seen it in the early Zen records, but it's a good term. To cement yourself, to glue yourself to the then it will work. But if it just becomes something that you think about in your mind and give interpretations, well, you know where that goes. It's less than useless. It's actually counterproductive. It's preventing you from opening up to that which is in the depths of your own heart. That's where the koans really came from. That's why I dare to say, what is your goal? My goal? No, but I'm just an ordinary Dutchman or Hungarian or German or whatever, 21st century. What do I know? Those great Zen masters back then, they had their magical koans, not us. Well, that's bullshit. Anyone who opens up to what is in the depths of their own heart, oh, the koan is there waiting. But again, a given koan, a koan that is in a book, and a koan case in a collection, they can work if you make it your own, if you cement yourself to it, if you bring it to life. But again, I challenge, even better, open up to the one that's already there. Then we don't have to worry about cementing ourselves to somebody else's. Huh? I admit I'm radical here, but I think Zen is by its nature subtle but radical. I get the impression in the West people are often trying to put koans in. You know, give me a koan and then I can put it in and it'll work its magic, you know. But again, I urge you, bring it out of yourself. That's the real koan. Bring it out of yourself. That is the most direct, immediate, authentic, and genuine way. That's where the koans originally came from. They weren't in books from the beginning. They were someone's question, someone's doubt that had to be asked. They were the one great matter for that person at that time. Does anyone have a question or concern about what I have just said, especially concerning our practice, what we are doing here? For the benefit of all, other people often have the same kind of question or doubt, so please feel free, for the benefit of all, to ask it. Or something you don't understand? Yes.
Why did you say it was radical that you
In a way, we
so
can
nice.
say,
It sounded nice.
yeah, in a way, Zen is, ordinary mind is the way, there's these kinds of expressions. It's the most natural thing in the world. Huh? The rose is red. You could also say the rose is not red, and saying the same thing. In a way, it's, when you've gone all the way through, it's the most ordinary thing in the world. It's the most natural thing in the world. But how to say it, from outside, it's very radical. It doesn't even give you a place to stand on, because you don't need it. But until you realize that, it seems very radical, doesn't it? Just a simple example. One of the early Chinese Zen masters, trying to express the truth of Zen, said, I don't have a roof tile, the old roofs. This is like a thatched roof here, huh? But roof tiles, they use tiles. Huh? I don't have a roof tile above my head. I don't have an inch of ground below my feet. Is that radical? Depends. In a way, it is, and frankly, I would say any genuine spiritual tradition, from the standpoint of the ego self, it must be radical. Right? Otherwise, why would you pursue that path in the first place? If you're content the way you are, fine. Why would you come and do this crazy practice here? So in a way, by its very nature, from the standpoint of the self, genuine spiritual practice is by its very nature radical, because it is, how to say it, demanding that delusion, in other language, sin, if we use Brahmana, come to its own end. Is that radical? Well, for the self running away from itself, yes, threatening. But when you've seen it all the way through, it's the most natural thing in the world. That's why I said before, how can you not give all of yourself? I don't understand. How can you not give all of yourself to this practice when you really see what it is, when you really see what you in your delusion do, the pain, the suffering that you cause yourself and others? How can you dawdle? How can you take your time? There's a healthy desperation, despair in any genuine spiritual tradition. Unless you come to the limits of the self, again, why practice in the first place? So it has to be healthy, properly directed, but there's almost always a kind of a despair, a desperation there. Is that radical? For the self, I suppose so. You know Paul Tillich? He was a Protestant theologian, German, but he went to America in the 1930s when Hitler rose to power. A number of outstanding Germans did that. Karen Horney, Erich Fromm, the therapist, and Paul Tillich was a Protestant theologian. Anyway, they made great contributions to American culture, psychology, philosophy. But Paul Tillich was very eloquent, very precise. He wasn't even a native English speaker, he was German. But one of the way he describes his Protestant faith is, it's basically 4 words. Grace, the grace, you understand grace? Again, we're talking about Christianity. Grace, how we come to a resolution. The grace of utter despair. For those of you who are at the German retreat, Ewald mentioned this quote, Basically 4 or 5 words. He's not even a native speaker, but that's pretty precise. What is salvation for his Protestant faith? It is the grace that comes from utter despair. What? Exactly, yes. If you don't get to the point of utter despair, realizing that your own self cannot do it, you cannot come to rest in yourself, there's no room for grace. You see? There's no room for grace. And again, as a Christian, it's not that God is holding back and giving you conditions. You're holding yourself back. You're keeping the door closed. But through utter despair of the self rising to God, through that utter despair, grace emerges. That's where it comes from. You understand? Again, as a good Protestant, until you get to that point, grace, in a sense, is beyond your grasp. Not because God is keeping it at a distance, you see, it's because you are keeping it at a distance. But again, it's very clear. Utter, not even despair, utter despair. His own English words. Great doubt? Yes, it's the same thing. Does that help? Now you tell me, is this radical?
Doesn't sound to me.
I'm glad to hear it. It doesn't sound to me either, but I'm sure for some people they'll say, what are you talking about? So, does anyone else have a question from out of the practice, please? Mate, okay with interpreting?
Yes.
Yeah. Often I send Mate a kind of a summary so he can, check on the, but this time, nothing. So he's winging it, as we say. Bella, how would you, in your own words, in one sentence, express the one great matter of life and death? In Italian. Just kidding.
Hát én képtelen vagyok arra, hogy egy mondatban ezt elmondjam.
I'm not capable of stating that in one sentence.
One word will do.
Egy szó is elég.
Do you know what it is, Bella?
Tudod, hogy mi az?
Tudom, persze.
Yes, of course, I know.
That's enough.
Ez elég.
Take it all the way.
Vidd.
Nekem volt egy olyan általad említett, illetve elmondott vonal, ami nagyon beütött.
Ez a vonal, ez egy mondatra gondolsz?
Egy beszéd, és akkor a vonalat meghatározza
Yeah,
számomra.
you had, Jeff, a Dharma talk earlier that really cemented me onto a way, onto a line.
Ez pedig az volt, hogy sokszor említetted ugyan, hogy keresés végére érjünk.
You mentioned a lot of times to reach the end of seeking.
Ugyanakkor talán egy évvel ezelőtt mondtál egy olyant, hogy hétköznapi tudat.
But you also, on the other hand, mention often ordinary mind.
És én ezt a kettőt úgy kombináltam, hogyha leülök, nem kell keresnem semmit,
And these two I combined into sitting down. When I sit down, I don't have to look for anything, seek anything.
csak át kell adnom magam a gyakorlásnak.
I only have to give myself fully to the practice.
Ez az átadás nem egy erőszakolt koncentráció legyen, mondtam magamnak,
And as I say to myself, this giving myself should not be like a focused, concentrated effort,
hanem egy lágy, barátságos kapcsolat önmagammal.
but rather a soft, friendly connection to myself.
Tehát nem kell erőszakolni semmit. Szoktad mondani, hogy ott vannak már, aminek kell lenni,
So you don't have to force anything. As you often put it, it is already there anyway.
és ennek a kettőnek a kombinációjával éreztem rá tulajdonképpen ezeknek a szavaknak a jelentésére.
And with the combination of these two, I really felt the meaning of these words.
Úgyhogy mondtam, hogy nem tudom egy szóban elmondani.
So, as I told you, I cannot state it in one sentence.
Tundi, what was the name of the Nobel Literature Prize winner from Hungary last year? Krasznahorkai. He could have done it in one sentence. Because he has whole chapters. I'm serious. I've read some of his stuff. A whole chapter, it's one sentence. So you're doing fine. You're doing fine. For those of you interested.
Állam Krasznahorkai tesz. Úgyhogy itt nincs van. Sajnos.
Anything else? We have a few minutes left. Thank you, Bella, for your personal touch. Yes.
Yes, I would have a question. I just have to nicely compose it somehow.
Mhm.
So 1 year ago, when I've been here and you just finished the Dharma talk, and I still had a question about fate and destiny. And at that time I decided that I would ask you about it. Meanwhile, some things became kind of clear, but I still have some questions.
Mm.
And it's also related to the thing what you said like a few minutes ago, that you don't really understand how is it possible that this is not the main concern of the people to find the roots of this one great matter. And it was my previous experience, and it's a personal experience, so I share it just briefly, to be at the birth of the thoughts.
Mm.
And at that time, what I understood, that I'm in no control of it. And it doesn't matter if I watch it or if I'm in it. It just appears, and it's out of my control. Nothing to do with that. I'm not the creator of any, but I'm the outcome or product
Mm.
of these things.
Mm.
At that time, it somehow became clear that this I or my I or self, whatever, it's nothing but a temporary state of cause and effect chain. But then the question arose that for some people, it's cause and effect that they are not interested in this one great matter. For some people, it's a cause and effect that they are interested.
Yes.
And I had it since my childhood, and I always thought that this is my kind of fate, or in a bad term. That I'm stupid enough, I hit my head into the table, so I have this kind of strange thing.
Yeah.
And in a way, I'm an idiot. And some normal people don't have this question and don't have this doubt. So, but it also means that the whole, as we call it, way, or practicing practicing Buddhism or Zen, it's also a kind of faith. The question is that, isn't it walking on the path and looking for the source of this one great matter is just another aspect on the cause and effect? So you cannot, some people cannot avoid it, some people cannot touch it, cannot get close to it, but it's somehow, I wouldn't say written, because I don't think it's a pre-recorded, destiny.
Yes.
But at this moment, I cannot change what arises in my mind. I follow everything what appears at this moment, again. So like wishing for something is just again a thought coming from cause and effect.
Yes.
So what is your great, so the question it appeared, and so what is your great opinion about this deterministic point of view?
Well, I don't know if it's great or not, but I will try to respond. I'd like to give the example from someone that I think everyone here knows, D.T. Suzuki, the person who more or less introduced Zen to the West. When he was a child, his father died. He was kind of a doctor in the 19th century Japan. And so his resources dried up. Then when he was still a teenager, his mother died, who he was very close to. It was very tough for him. And for him, he's written in his autobiographical essay, what a struggle this is of free will and determinism. It was like he had all of the options. The world was in his hand, And then his father died. And then his mother died. And all of a sudden he had nothing. Why? Why did this happen to me? And this, in a sense, became his living koan, you see? And as many of you know, he was a layman, but he practiced long and hard, and he had an awakening. And very soon after, he went to the United States. This would be 1897, so it's 130 years ago. He went to the States, He was there over a decade. Well, the deeper realization only came to him when he was in the States. And there's a jakugo, a capping phrase that is used in koan practice. In Japanese, hiji, your elbow. Hiji soto ni magarazu. The elbow does not bend outward, right? I mean, maybe if you're double jointed, it does, but it goes this far. It doesn't go the other way, right? And he always thought, well, this just sums it up for him, It's just this. It doesn't go that way. My freedom is limited. I'm not really free, maybe half free. But as a capping phrase, it has another meaning. And eventually he realized what it really meant. And he said at that point, the whole question of free will, determinism, was solved for him in his life. But to put it very simply, rationally, this is only half free, right? Unless it goes the other way, then it's really free. But no, this is total freedom. This is totally free. No, this is it. This is it. It doesn't need to bend outward. But rationally, it's very easy to fall into that, you see? What about the rest of it? Oh, it's all here. So I'm borrowing from D.T. Suzuki because I found the way he expressed it was very clear and very effective for him. It worked. But the question, is there free will? In a sense, yes. But is there determinism? In a sense, yes. And the point is, there's no contradiction whatsoever. Rationally, philosophers have spent their lifetime trying to figure that one out. There is no contradiction. What you're saying, you're a Hungarian, I'm an American. Are we going to change that? Well, I guess I could change my citizenship, but no, I was born in America. I'm not going to change that. You were born in Hungary? Do we need to change that? Oh, but if you were born in America, I've heard people often tell me, oh, if I was born in America like you, you had so many chances, so many possibilities. And in a way, it's true. I was able to go to Japan and do all those things. It was not easy 45 years ago for a Hungarian to go to Japan, I reckon. Huh? So no, Buddhism doesn't deny that. Causes and conditions. Buddhism, pop Buddhism intends in this direction, but as you're saying, Buddhism doesn't deny the causes and the conditions. You don't need to become an American. I don't need to have my elbow go both ways. When we realize who we truly are, that determination, American, male, stupid, whatever, I am, that is my freedom when it's realized. And I trust you touched something like that in that experience. Huh? The whole question is a huge philosophical question, but existentially, it's not a question at all. If you turn yourself into a victim, right? I'm a male or a female, or rich or poor, or German or Hungarian or whatever. All of this, it can go either way, right? Therefore, what? Therefore, what? I had to struggle more than someone else? I see. And that's bad or good? Huh? To put it very bluntly, it depends on what you do with it.
Sorry?
It depends on what you do with it. Thank you for the question. It's not a great answer, but at least I trust you can see these kinds of questions can be philosophically, they're endless. But in our actual life, what determines us? You understand my limitation. I'm a man, I'm not a woman. I'm an American. Unfortunately, I hardly know any other languages, That can be something that destroys me, or it can be something that gives me life. Perhaps your related question is why some people, this is the way they must go. Other people, it doesn't even make sense. You can talk about it till the cows come home, and they have no idea what you're talking about. You're familiar with this, right? Because you're teaching here as well, yeah. It doesn't mean they're bad and we're good. They are where they are. And we can analyze intellectually the causes and the conditions, their parents, their family, their mental attitude, wherever that came from. You know what I mean? It's endless. But it says something. Buddhism doesn't simply deny that. It says something. If your parents abused you when you were a child, that can have a long and lasting effect. You can also get through it. Almost anything the human spirit can get through. It's amazing. It's amazing. But it can also get stuck on almost anything too, can't it? Anyway, it's a very big question, and in a sense, it's a philosophical one. It's not really related to the practice, but you came to this through practice, and something opened up for you, huh? So, may it be of real use. Huh? The elbow does not bend outward. Doesn't need to. Thank you all for your comments and your questions. We are doing this together. Huh? Let us continue right up to the end. Thank you all.